This is Fresh Air. I'm Terry Gross. Today started with really bad news. David Rakoff died last night from cancer. The cancer that so many of his fans knew about because he wrote about it with a perfect balance of wit and gravity. Rakoff was a wonderful writer who developed a devoted following as a regular contributor to This American Life.
I do not go outdoors. Not more than I have to. As far as I'm concerned, the whole point of living in New York City is indoors. You want greenery? Order the spinach. Paradoxically, I'm about to climb a mountain on Christmas Day with a man named Larry Davis. Larry has climbed Mount Monadnock in southwestern New Hampshire every day for the last 5+ years. I will join him on ascent number 2065. The trip up to New Hampshire will involve a tiny plane from Boston. I tear my medicine cabinet apart like Billie Holiday and still only uncover one Xanax. The hiking boots the Outdoor Adventure magazine sent me to buy, large, ungainly potato-like things that I've been trying to break in for the past 4 days, cut into my feet and draw blood as if they were lined with cheese graters. I have come to hate these timberlands with a fervor I usually reserve for people. Just think, the shoes I wouldn't be caught dead in might actually turn out to be the shoes I am caught dead in.
Last year, he won the Thurber Prize for American Humor for his book Half Empty. The book ends with a chapter about his recurrence of cancer. He was told at one point that a tumor might necessitate having his arm and shoulder amputated. He avoided amputation, but suffered excruciating pain in his arm. Surgery severed the nerve and relieved much of the pain, but his arm lost all movement and feeling. Rakoff recently performed a beautiful monologue and dance piece about his arm on This American Life's movie cast. Here's an excerpt of our 2010 interview after the publication of Half Empty. David Rakoff, welcome back to Fresh Air.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really enjoy your writing, and when I got to the last chapter of your book, I just let out this real oh no kind of gasp because it talks about a recurrence of your cancer, and wasn't happy to read about that, but it's an awfully well written chapter.
Well, thank you hugely, because that was the big problem for me in terms of this book, which is somewhat more personal than the previous books. I've always bridled at the term memoirist because I've wanted to be known for the quality of my writing as opposed to the particulars of my biography. So that's a huge worry for me. So thank you very much for that.
So in this chapter, you describe a recurrence of cancer. You'd had lymphoma in your 20s, and this time it was in like your collarbone near your neck?
It's in the soft tissue. It's a sarcoma, and it was caused by the radiation I received for the previous cancer.
That kills me.
Rare.
I just have to say that kills me.
I know, but it's like living near a bad industrial site or something, and the science has advanced so much, and it's rare, but becoming less rare as a population who got radiation ages. So it's a few things to be thankful for. I mean, it's I sound like a Pollyanna, like that girl from Bleak House that I even described in Dickens, where she gets smallpox and virtually dances across the room because of how much less vain she'll become or something, and you just want to punch her in the face. But a few good things. One is that as much time elapsed as it did, which made me a candidate for more treatment. I could withstand more treatment because enough decades had passed. So there are reasons within that crappy news to be thankful.
So because of the location of the tumor, you were at risk of having your arm cut off, actually more than your arm.
Yeah, the shoulder from neck to armpit, because everything's so crowded there with like arteries and stuff. But again, as they keep on telling me, no one dies from the arm. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with one arm, like continue living. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
So my arm is in danger, but for now, knock on the wood trim on my nice desk, I'm not in danger, which is a distinction worth making.
Absolutely, and that's great news. So now you need to do a reading from the book, and I want you to read from page 212.
Mm-hmm.
And This is after you've gotten, mixed diagnoses in the period of time since the tumor was diagnosed. So first you were told that they had to take the arm, and then you were told that they didn't. And so where does this reading come in? What were you told?
This reading comes in right when, the first person who told me he was going to take the arm, I sort of checked up on him, and it turned out that he was, I don't want to say dangerous quack, but I did manage within the course of, say, 90 minutes to find 3 oncologists who knew exactly who he was, one of whom said he gets great results that can't be replicated, which is essentially calling someone a fraud, and another fellow who simply screamed no upon hearing mention of his name. So I wrote him off, and went to see another doctor who was not a dangerous quack, but the non-dangerous quack said, well, we got to take the arm. So it seemed when someone with credibility tells you, it was more of a fait accompli, and it was a lot less rosy a scenario, and I couldn't quite write him off. And this is from that moment, I guess.
Would you read it?
Sure. And down the rough hill we sled. I am back trying to be unsentimental about a non-dominant limb, doing the trade-off in my mind, an arm for continued existence. It's an exchange I can live with, although I am fixated on how radical the cut, from neck to armpit, leaving me without even a shoulder to balance things out. I imagine that the rest of my life I will see the tiniest involuntary flinch on the faces of people as they react with an immediate and preconscious disgust at the asymmetry of my silhouette. Nevertheless, I become defensive pessimism in action, puncturing my fear by learning to go without something before it's officially discontinued, weaning myself off of saffron or Iranian caviar before it becomes no longer available, and trying to ascribe a similar luxurious dispensability to my left arm. I begin to type with one hand. One finger is more like it. Considering what I do for a living, it's appalling that I'm still hunt and peck. I accomplish a host of tasks, putting on my shoes, new slip-ons purchased without even looking at the price tag. I remember this kind of heedless spending in the face of illness. Buttoning my fly, showering, dressing, shaving. I managed to cut an avocado in half by wedging the leathery black pear against the counter with my stomach, and, thus steadied, go at it with a knife. In the evenings, with my bloodstream a sticky river of Ativan, wine, and codeine, it all feels eminently doable. In the cold light of day, however, unable to carry a chair to move it into a corner, for example, what I'm about to embark on feels a little bigger and harder.
You're right, they say there are no atheists in foxholes. I am still not moved to either pray or ask, why me? Why not?
Because writer Melissa Bank said it best. The only proper answer to why me is, well, why not you? The universe is anarchic and doesn't care about us, and unfortunately, there's no greater rhyme or reason as to why it would be me. And since there is no actual answer as to why me, it's not a question I feel really entitled to ask. And in so many other ways, I'm so far ahead of the game. I have access to great medical care. My general baseline health, aside from the late unpleasantness of the cancer, is great. And it's great because I'm privileged to have great health, and I live in a country where I'm not making sneakers for a living, and I don't live near a toxic waste dump. And, so you can't win all the contests and then lose at one contest and say, why am I not winning this contest as well? It's random, So, truthfully, again, do I wish it weren't me? Absolutely. But I still can't then make that logistical jump to thinking there's a reason why it shouldn't be me.
Right after you were diagnosed with your recurrence of cancer, you performed in a short film that won an Oscar this year for Best Dramatic Short Film. You wrote the adaptation. Was it adapted from a story or a play?
From a script, from a short script.
That somebody else had written?
Yeah, Anders Thomas Jensen, I think his name was, a Danish fellow. I never met him. He lives in Denmark.
Okay.
I think that's his name.
So we're gonna play a clip from the film.
Oh.
And the film is called The New Tenants. So
Yes.
in this scene, you are sitting across the table in your new apartment with your boyfriend who you have moved in with.
Yes.
And he's trying to eat dinner and is very annoyed by your cigarette smoke as you're just like chain smoking and delivering this monologue as you smoke.
Yes.
No one gets out alive. Everybody buys the farm at some point, and usually in the most hideous, least photogenic manner. And every second, in every country, in every city, in every hospital, someone is just giving up the ghost in some vile, farting, vomiting display. Just every orifice discharging at the exact same